Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Metal video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at the performance of the Int Super Saiyan God Goku Super Saiyan exchange into Super Saiyan God Vegeta Super Saiyan unit and just how good they are obviously in the Cell Max event. Now the Cell Max event, full disclaimer, couple things here, but the Cell Max event is one of the hardest events in the game, and quite frankly you really shouldn't be taking it on without units that have massive levels of evasion or massive levels of damage reduction, or can have like a raw defense of over 600k just to handle normals. Secondly, also to put it bluntly, these guys are going to be stuck in the first slot, and they really are not a good first slot unit. They gain a lot of defense after they super attack. They can super attack multiple times, which again also gives them a lot of defense, especially in Vegeta form. So quite frankly, it's really not ideal to put them in the first slot. We are going to be sticking them in the first slot. We're going to be sticking them in the first slot to see how they do throughout the entire event. And yeah, quite frankly, it's not exactly the best procedure to do. You can 100% use them better. Ideally, you put the Tech God Goku in the first slot, and then you are sitting a lot better. And quite frankly, he can tank way better than they can. So 100% you should definitely be doing that if you are trying to take the event seriously. So if you're not just evaluating the unit, if you are trying to take the event seriously, you want to put them in the second slot. That's going to be where they perform best. Personally speaking, for me, quite frankly, I think they do okay. They are in the very nice situation whereby they have whereby they have type advantage. So the fact that they have type advantage against the Cell Max, so they are in typing versus tech typing, is pretty good. Basically speaking, I think for me, that's probably the best thing they have going for them. They very much rely on raw defense, so having quite frankly having just a high level of defense really isn't enough for the Cell Max event to be a tank in the event. At least you can possibly tank normals with it, but yeah, nice thing about them though is they will do great damage in the Cell Max event. So they will do quite a significant amount of damage, which is obviously super duper helpful. And from that perspective, we can definitely see just how well they do. With that being said, of course, quite frankly, I think personally speaking, they do okay. We're mainly evaluating them at 55 and 69%, but I think they do okay. I think personally I would have expected them to do a little bit better considering they have type advantage. They get hit by a lot of super attacks obviously, which a lot of units can't survive, but I would have just really liked them to kind of pop off maybe just a tiny bit more. And I think that's where not having the evasion mechanic or damage reduction mechanic or anything like that does kind of negatively affect them, because even getting them to the Cell Max stage, like at 55%, if you don't have them build up their attacks early on so they can build up their defense, they actually can take quite a bit of damage from the physical Cell Max stage. So that immediate type disadvantage does kind of negatively impair them. So for me, that is something you do have to factor in a little bit into evaluating them. But overall, their team is pretty strong for the Cell Max event. Their leader skill is pretty good. They do have, the Realm of the Gods lead, the Master of the Evolution lead as well. They've got the 30% pure sand, so all of that is pretty good stuff, and does really set them up decently for success. So yeah, I do think as a unit they are still pretty good. I think their typing does help them a lot. If you have a dupe in them or so, and you stick them in the second slot, I think they are a very good damage dealer that will be able to somewhat handle the high levels of difficulty of the event. Their team overall also is pretty nice. There's a lot of evasion, so it is a bit of an RNG based team, but it can definitely be a team that you can have some faith in, at least for me. Plus, not to mention the constant stacking of attack does mean that when you do finally get to the final phase, you know, Goku stacks up quite a decent amount of attack for Vegeta. So that is something that I think is pretty good and will obviously improve the overall performance of the units. That being said, for me personally, I think for me, I'm rather happy with their performance. I don't think they're a unit that's going to hard carry your Cell Max run, but I do think they are pretty reliable. I think they are fairly, you know, decent, reliable. They're very solid units overall. And yeah, I do think in general that they can be a very, very, very strong damage dealer in this event. They won't ever survive a super attack. I think the conditions for them to survive a super attack is for them to literally be Rainbow and get an additional super attack in Vegeta form with the defensive gear, with level 10 links, and you need to have like 700k health. And then I think they survive. Like, that's how intense it is for them to kind of live through that moment. So it is pretty challenging. For me personally speaking, I wouldn't consider them like in any way a defensive stalwart of the team, but they will survive normals after they fire off their super attacks. So that is obviously pretty good. For me personally, I think as a unit their kit is decent. Just to recap very quickly, Goku obviously builds up his attack and defense for every attack he performs. 50% extra attack and defense when performing a super attack, and a great chance of launching a super attack from the start of turn for 3 turns. And then Vegeta starts changing key spheres to rainbow key spheres. Will have additional crit chance and key per rainbow key sphere obtained, and then of course also have an additional attack and defense of 100% with rainbow key spheres obtained, and also have additional defense of 3 or 50% with 3 or more rainbow key spheres obtained. So it is very, it is very impressive. Overall I think Vegeta can be a super usable, interesting unit. I just think you need to obviously cater to them properly, which we don't necessarily do here, because again we want to see them take the damage just for an experimental purposes. But yeah, obviously ideally you would put someone like Tech God Goku in the first slot. It's much better, much more ideal. Then you can obviously have him soak up the damage, he can tank a super attack, and then you can have good old Vegeta and Goku essentially crush things out with their damage, which would be the most ideal situation overall. So yeah, that is it. We're obviously going to take a couple looks at how they perform. So here in this situation we're going to have Vegeta transform. He's going to get 3 orbs, and then we're just going to see how he tanks things out. Again, not ideal to put them in the first slot. Defense, even though here it's over 200k even with type advantage, just not enough in any way, shape or form to tank Cell Max, especially his super attack, which he's going to launch. And you're going to see Vegeta get absolutely ransacked by this. 782, pretty much completely lambasted. So yeah, it is something that is important. We're going to transform it again, try him out again, let him get another look, see how he tanks normals, for example. But yeah, it is definitely very much like the situation where the units are never going to look good absorbing damage. Like, they're just raw defense. So there's never a situation where Cell Max can hit them before they super and they're going to look good in any way, shape or form. What is important is that they will eventually look better after they fire off their super attacks, and that will make them look really good in their second slot, which is super important. But yeah, So here we're going to see how well they tank after they super. So we took 780k last time. Here in this situation we get our super attack beforehand, which is very important. Decent damage as well, and you're going to see that, you know, drop down quite substantially, all the way to 698. And this was actually a 55% unit comparatively to a 69% unit. So immediately that's quite a sizable defensive boost. And here we're just going to take a look at the 55% Goku. Still one more stack to go on this Goku, but it's going to be a good example of how much damage he'd take. And you can see there 174k. After supering as Vegeta would probably take in the realm of 70,000-ish damage without a defensive equip, without level 10 links, and with the way he is. But under 200% leads, a little bit less. So decent stuff, but really they're coming for damage. But that's going to be it from me. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. Bye.